listening to the Community Wealth Builders All Access podcast. The production team are Angel Moore and Georgia Sutherland. I'm Eve Robinson and welcome to the show. Welcome to the Community Wealth Builders All Access podcast, and today we're going to be talking to the CEO and founder of the sleep charity. It previously was called the Children's Sleep Charity, but as things have gone, we've found that lots of people are needing help. So welcome to the show, Vicki.
Thank you.
Nice to see you again. And firstly, tell me, what made you start this charity?
Yeah, so it was my own experience of sleep deprivation, which I kind of expected a little bit of when I became a parent, but I didn't expect it to go on for so many years. And I was really shocked that there was no support in order to help me. So my son didn't sleep through until he was 6 years old. And I was working full-time as a teacher, teaching young people with quite complex needs. It was a demanding job anyway, but to be doing it when you are chronically sleep deprived, it had a huge impact on my health and well-being. And I wanted to stop other families from having that experience and to offer them some support.
I see. And so your son, you sort of worked with him. He was your model. And where did you go for your research?
Yeah, so I read everything I could about sleep, and I think that I had a bit of a mindset change because I thought it was a medical issue that he had. So I'd gone down the route of GP, health visitor, and then I started to think about sleep as a behaviour, and that's kind of what I did in the daytime. So I did behaviour management, and what we did around behaviour is look for the triggers and then look for the strategies. And unfortunately with sleep, we often throw strategies at it before we unpick it and try to work out what may be causing it. And that's exactly what I'd been doing. So I was the parent who said, I've tried everything, and I probably had, but I'd not tried it knowing about sleep physiology, and I'd not tried it once I'd sort of unpicked what was causing it. So yeah, that's where it started.
Oh, it's amazing that you were able to do that when you were so sleep deprived, because a lot of us just keep stumbling on with the same thing. So since you've done this and you've got the charity going, have you found that you have been inundated, or is it just a niche thing?
No, we've been absolutely inundated. So I started the charity. Well, I didn't even start a charity. I just started to help people is how it occurred. And then I was getting messages from friends of friends saying, I understand you know something about sleep, we're desperate. And that's how it started. Now we've got a national sleep helpline. We help people all across the country. And statistically, it's like 40% of adults have got a sleep issue. And it shoots up to sort of over 80% if children have got a special educational need or disability. So there are a lot of tired people out there.
Yes, I think that very often when children are diagnosed with like ADHD or something like that, that does impact on it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And, one of the things that I'm really keen on is early intervention. So let's get the sleep sorted and then see how they present, because we know that if we can improve sleep, we can improve presentation. We're more emotionally regulated, behaviour reduces, we're calmer, more able to learn.
Yeah. But now that you're well established, and like you say, you've gone from being the sleep charity to you were the children's charity, children's sleep charity, but now you're a sleep charity. And you've gone on to sort of really expand. But what have you found are the difficulties? Because like you say, you started off being not so much a charity, just helping people, but you have to make that transition. And has that been difficult?
Yeah, it is difficult. It's really complex. There was more to it than I could have ever imagined. I was rather naive when I set the charity up. But I'm thankful for that, because if I'd have realised how difficult it was going to be, I probably wouldn't have done it. So, yeah, it has been really challenging. One of the challenging things is the number of people we have to support, and that's increased significantly since the pandemic. We feel the strain because of the NHS being at full capacity, and because they don't really always support sleep issues, particularly across the country. It's very different depending on where you live. So that's a big strain, and finding the funding. funders tend to think that this is funded by the government, by, healthcare. It's not. So finding the funding has been particularly difficult, and it gets more difficult as time goes on as well.
And what's one of the strategies you use to try and generate money?
So it's around not having all your eggs in one basket. So looking at different funding streams. Initially, we used to create sort of about 85% of our funding through delivering training. So we've become trainers for NHS. So we train like health visitors, GPs, etc. And that seemed a really stable income stream. And then, of course, when COVID hit, we weren't able to do that anymore. So we had to quickly change our strategy and develop an online platform, which does bring in, a good income stream for us, thankfully.
That's good, that's good. And I understand that you're part of the Small Charity Advisory Panel. What is that helpful to you?
Yeah, so the Small Charity Advisory Panel it was set up about 18 months ago, and it sits under NCVO, which is a national organisation. And with the Small Charity Advisory Panel, it's about advocating for the small organisations and getting their voices heard. So I feel very privileged that I was chosen to be on the panel, and I co-chair that. And I get to speak to so many different charity leaders from all across the country. So it is really helpful because we're united by the same challenges.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? If you can talk to other people with the same problems, and sometimes their problems, their solutions will work for you as well. So it's good to talk, isn't it? That's the thing,
Yeah, that peer support's really important. Sometimes it can be very isolating, running a small organisation, but to have those networks with other people is really beneficial.
Yeah. I mean, the economic climate can't have helped you at all.
No, it's not, and it hasn't helped the sector. We have seen a decline in grant funding, and a lot of funders are closing the doors right now while they rethink the strategies, which is understandable. But meanwhile, we're still here, and we're still trying to do the work, which is a huge, huge challenge, a huge stress. And we are filling the gaps, filling vital gaps in our society and in our communities.
Yeah.
So we can't afford not to support these small organisations.
Yeah. Right, I'm going to sort of separate two things here. Firstly, I'd like 3 tips that you could quickly give for somebody who's having sleep problems. And then after that, I want to talk about funding.
Okay, so with the sleep problems, I would say concentrate on what's causing it or what you think may be causing it before you even look at strategies. Don't think that you're alone, because you're not. This is really common. And if you can't sleep and you're struggling, it's okay to get up and to go back to bed when you're feeling tired. Otherwise, you develop a real negative association with your bed, with your bedroom, and with sleep, so it can increase that anxiety.
Oh, that's very helpful, I think. Right, now, when it comes to helping a charity start up, what's your 3 top tips for that?
Yeah, so charities need to, first of all, look at the structure. So what is the best structure for them? Do they need to become a registered charity? Are they better becoming a community interest company or a constituted community organisation? So getting the structure right at the very beginning is really important. And I would say take advice around that.
Where would you go for advice?
It really depends on where you are. So in Doncaster, I know there's advice through the community wealth building team. But again, we've got like such sort of different systems across the country as well, so it can get confusing for people. NCVO have also got a small charity helpline that people can contact too for advice. I think it's important to look at your mission. So what is it you're trying to achieve? Who are you trying to reach? How are you going to do that? So be really clear about your purpose. And the third one is, where is the money going to come from, and getting your income streams right.
Yeah. And is there somebody in Doncaster that's particularly helped you?
I think my knowledge has come from a range of different areas. So I have grabbed any bit of help I could get and been really grateful for it. So in the early days, I used the CVS in Doncaster. I've used other organisations around Doncaster, so done the networking with sort of leaders and listened to their information, support and advice. I've trawled the internet, found free courses, just been really open to learning and to finding out more, lots of reading involved.
If somebody in Doncaster today is thinking, my child doesn't sleep or I don't sleep, can they just ring you?
Yeah, so we've got details on our website of the National Sleep Helpline. So it's got the opening times on there and also the number so they can get in touch and they will be able to speak to a sleep practitioner and get some information and some support.
And online is there information on your website as well?
Yeah, so the websites are absolutely jam-packed full of information for adults, for children. We've got a teen sleep hub, so particularly for teenagers, we've got downloadable ebooks, we've got podcasts about sleep for people who've got diagnosis of ADHD, whole range of resources on there.
There's a lot there then to be listening to. Well, that's fantastic. I think that possibly we've covered most things. Is there anything you'd like to say to the people that are listening?
Just carry on doing the stuff that you're doing for our community because it's never been more needed.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. That was Vicki Beevers, and she was the founder and CEO of the Sleep Charity, and it's been lovely talking to you. Thank you. Right, we touched sort of briefly on the isolation that can be caused by charity work. Can you explain to me how you get round that?
Yeah, I think it's around networking. So meeting other people who are in similar situations. And I think when I first started out, I didn't realise that or recognise that. I almost thought everyone else was fine and it was just me that was feeling isolated or as if I was winging it.
Yeah, because it can be overwhelming, can't it?
Yeah, there's so much to do with these roles. Your HR, your finance, your funding. You have every single role at the start in the organisation and it can seem overwhelming and like you don't know what you're doing. There's that big imposter syndrome. So networking was really useful for me so that I could build relationships with other people who were doing similar things, who had got shared values with me and who could become sort of trusted people that I could turn to if I was finding things difficult. But they could also be my critical friends as well. So, reflecting on, the situation that I was in and giving me some real sound advice. So networking's been massively important for me within the sector.
Yeah, I suppose that's where that small charity advisory really comes in then, because sometimes it is difficult when you've got a lot of different people doing different things to find an umbrella that they can go under.
Yeah, it is. And, we're such a diverse group. There's so many organisations doing widely different things geographically, but also locally, here in Doncaster, we've got really tiny organisations that are doing such valuable work. And then we've got larger ones. But it's important that we support each other. And I think there can be a tendency to view each other as competitors. But actually, if we come together and we work together, then we're stronger, and that's so important.
That is so important. It's like I used to have a lot to do with the Doncaster Little Theatre, and people say, oh, well, there's cast and, are they your rivals? No, because people who go to theatre go to theatre. So if they're going there, they will also come to see us. And it's the same thing, isn't it, that, you're not rivals. You're just all trying to get people to have a better life in some way or other.
That's it. Yeah. It's that common purpose, and actually sometimes you can do funding bids as a partnership and it actually strengthens it and you've more chance of getting the bid and sharing that money and sharing that workload and sharing that knowledge, which has got to be a positive thing.
Yeah, I should think the sharing of the knowledge of where to go for grants and things and where do you start, really?
Yeah, it's there's so much information out there. So there are different newsletters that you can subscribe to, but you can feel like you spend a lot of time sort of trawling these things as well. And I think it's about having your strategy in place so that you're not just reliant on the grants, because they're harder and harder to get than ever before. The competition for grants is massive at the moment. So it's just sort of bearing that in mind when you develop your strategy of how are we going to keep going if we don't get that particular grant or if that funder closes down. And sometimes it's looking at things like corporates and what can we offer corporates as a charity, because quite often charities go to corporates wanting a donation, but actually we've got a lot to offer. So for example, in the sleep charity, we can add value to the work that they're doing around the well-being of the workforce, or we can have value around providing evidence-based information to support their products if they're a sleep-related sort of business. So it's trying to find those matches, and then you're not just asking for a donation. What you're giving is of real value to corporate organisations.
Yeah, so you provide a service, and that's where you've sort of thought outside the box, haven't you? Because you went from dealing with a problem you had and then saw it was a bigger problem, and then now you've made it so that it's not just children, it's lots of people, and you can provide that service by thinking outside the box, really.
Yeah, I suppose I've kind of run it like a business because it needs to be. So it's about being really business minded around what are we aiming to do here, how are we going to do it, and we've developed very strategic pillars, which we like to call pillows because of the sleep stuff. But we're very clear on that. We provide information and support, we provide research, we provide the training, but we also campaign. So we've developed networks politically as well, and we're back in the House of Commons in a couple of weeks' time with another campaign, which is
tell us
exciting.
A little bit about that if you can.
Yeah, so this is I think it's the fourth campaign we've done now in the House of Commons. So the first was absolutely terrifying because didn't know what I was doing and had to ask for lots of help and support. But the one that we're carrying out on the 4th of December is around safety and sleep. So we are aiming it at the workforce, and actually if we are sleep deprived, then we are going to have accidents. There's massive risks around driver fatigue. We've got delivery drivers out there who may not be getting the best night's sleep. So it's looking at actually what are the risks and what can employers do to try to mitigate some of those risks by providing sleep information, and the government, we're calling on them to develop a national sleep strategy.
Yeah, that's really important because the thing is, it's a bit like there's certain things that we need in life, and sleep is really one of them, isn't it? It's much more important than I think a lot of people realise.
It is, so it's fundamental. We need sleep, we need nutrition, water, we need exercise, but actually sleep seems to be missing from the public health agenda. So there's no regulation around sleep in the UK, so anybody can say they're a sleep expert, and unfortunately they do at times, because we've got people who are desperate for help, and then they will pay, and they're not always getting the best support and advice, which is something that we're trying to address through the campaigning work that we do. And we were just getting somewhere with the last government. We launched a manifesto in April, and we got 12 minutes on breakfast TV with the BBC, which was huge coverage. Yes. And then there was the general election, so it feels like we've got to start again. But we will carry on campaigning because it's vitally important.
Well, we'll have to put a link to that where we can see your interview on the BBC. That sounds really good. Yeah. And right, so a lot of your funding for your thing has been self-generated. Yeah. And is that difficult?
It is really difficult, yeah. It's a real challenge to think about where the income may come from, because we generate it through sort of selling services, often to clinical commissioning groups in the NHS. So, for example, I've got a service at Alderhay Hospital in Liverpool, but we don't know what their budget's like, for next year. So it is a challenge, and you're always sort of rolling from one financial year to the next and wondering where the money's going to come from. And this is where it gets frustrating, because we know what we do works. We've had lots of research papers published, so we've even been published in the British Medical Journal showing that we're effective, we're cost saving. But then grant funders want you to be innovative. And it's like, well, can we just fund what actually works? So we forever feel like we're trying to come up with innovative ways to deliver the outcomes when actually we've got a really good way of doing it that's really cost effective and can reduce costs because of things like prescription drugs. We're more effective than prescription sleep drugs.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The thing with a lot of things is it doesn't have to be all bright and shiny and all. If it works, it works, and you've proved that because, like I say, I've interviewed you before, and you've gone from it being quite a small thing and just for children, but now you've expanded it so much. One of the things that I'd like to ask you now is going back to sort of looking at it not from your charity, but from any charity, because you've had the experience now. Is there sort of signposts that you could think, oh, as a charity, you should definitely do this, and you should definitely not do that?
I think a really important thing, but a really difficult thing, is getting the governance in place. So when I first started my charity, I found it hard to find trustees, and I think small charities do experience this because they've got legal responsibilities. You need to have a board who've got a range of skills. And in the beginning, it was just like trying to get anybody to be a trustee because we needed to get set up.
I suppose with you teaching, you probably had quite a wealth of people that you thought would join. But when you're a very small charity, it might not be that way.
Yeah, so now we're in a different position and we can advertise and we can get lots of applications in, which is amazing. But when you aren't successful at the start, it can be harder to attract volunteers. And I think particularly volunteers who've got the right skills, there's a lot of pressure on the board, and quite often boards don't understand their roles properly. And what happens is that charities tend to sort of grow organically, and then they get to a point where actually the governance is not kept up, and it's really important that that's in place so that you've got real firm foundations to build on. And we've done lots and lots of work on our board in the last few years. We've got an exceptional board now, which is brilliant, and it makes my life so much easier.
I was just going to say,
well.
What do they do to enhance? Does it leave you hands free to do other stuff?
Yeah, so they do all sorts around the strategy, and they've got real sort of wide knowledge. So our chair is Helen Michaels, and she runs a governance organisation. So she's like really bang on all that kind of thing. So it takes real leadership around things like having risk registers and all the bits that I'm going to admit are a bit dull to me. But really essential stuff. And, I've got great treasurer who's an accountant who links in with our finance manager, HR trustee, safeguarding one. So we've got them coming from all different angles. We've got fundraising one as well. And they fill those gaps that I've got in my knowledge. So you can't know everything. So when I'm looking at fundraising and what should we be doing next, Juliet, who's our fundraising trustee, she's a wealth of knowledge. So she got me to sign up for the London Marathon thing that came out the other day for charities. So this is a golden opportunity for small charities to maybe get places at the London Marathon and be able to raise a lot of money, which is probably something that I would have missed without her being there.
So will you be doing the marathon?
Absolutely not. No.
You'll just be waving a banner on the side.
Yeah, I'm not a runner.
No.
I know. I have tried, but no, I'm definitely not a runner. So I'm sure there'll be people who would be desperate for those places. But I will cheer them along. Yeah,
that sounds like, like you say, you've got your face, you're at the coal face doing stuff. So it is good to have a board to help with all kinds of aspects of the job.
Yeah, and I think you've got to invest in your board as well. So our board have had training, which is really important. We have away days so that we can look at strategy, but also build relationships because our board are from across the country now. So like Helen, the chair, is in London. We're not all locally based. And it's important that we've got that team approach and that it feels like a safe place to have discussions, and it does. We do feel like a really secure team, but that takes work to get there. an investment of time and sometimes money as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so a very small charity, you'd say that's a good thing to get in place, but it isn't easy. It isn't an easy task at all.
No, it's not an easy task. And, I do volunteer for other charities. And I think when you are volunteering your time, it's important that volunteers feel valued. It's kind of, what are your board getting out of this, or what are your volunteers getting out of this? Because they have to get something out of it as well in order to keep volunteering. So it is really important that they do feel that they're making a difference and that the values align with your organisation and that they are appropriately thanked too.
Yeah. So if somebody was in Doncaster not with a sleep problem but wanted to help you, do you still take volunteers?
We do, yeah. We take volunteers probably in a bit of a different way because we don't have a place in Doncaster any longer. We got rid of the offices after COVID because we use that space to deliver the face-to-face training. And now we've got an online platform, so we cut costs wherever we can. So we all work from home, so we don't have a space for people to come to. But I'm a big fan of using volunteers' skills. So we have had volunteers who, for example, have helped us to develop like a workforce culture policy because they've had a HR background. And when we did get the online platform, it was a volunteer that helped us with that during furlough times because I had no clue how to even begin to sort of get our training online.
Yeah, it was a sharp learning curve for a lot of us, I think.
Yeah. And we had the big rebrand when we changed our name and our identity, and it was a volunteer that did all our rebrand and made an absolutely stunning job of it, and gave us that real professional look that we've got now. Yeah. So I kind of think that sometimes we don't utilise volunteers properly. When we think of volunteers, it can be very much, would you like some volunteers from this company? They'll come and paint a wall in your office. And it's like, no. Like there's so much more volunteers can do. Yeah. So what skills have we not got that we need? And what skills can you help, put in there?
Yeah, so when somebody's got a new charity, it would be good for them to sort of sit down with people that have volunteered and say, what did you do in a past life?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, what skills have you got that you can offer? I volunteer for local charities and I help them with the fundraising sometimes, or with the strategy, or with coaching like the team. And it's such a privilege to be asked to do that. It makes me feel good. I'm giving something back to the sector, and it's the best use of my skills.
Yeah. Well, I've just got to say that actually you helped me. I've got a long-standing sleep problem. Had it all my life, and I'm getting on now. And there was just certain strategies that I saw on your website after I'd spoken to you before. So anybody out there who's having sleep problems, I would say first port of call is the website, and if not, then perhaps give you a call and see what they can do. So I think that's us wrapped up today. So thank you very much, Vicki Beevers, for coming in, founder and CEO of the Sleep Charity. And that's it, I think.
Brilliant.
Take care then.
You.
Right, thanks a lot. Bye.